coming at you. Good Tuesday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, right off the bat, I'm going to say it. I was wrong. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong.
I'm assuming that you are referring to the April 22nd press release on Bassmaster.com. Headline, Birmingham, Lake Guntersville.
I'm shocked.
2020 Bassmaster Classic.
I really am shocked. I really thought that they would not go back to Guntersville once again. I get it. I understand why. But at the same time, I really thought that they would try to go to Logan Martin or Lay Lake. Obviously, Guntersville ponying up the money to be able to do that. Is it going to be a great event?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, 100%. The guys are going to absolutely smash them in the month of March.
It's in Guntersville is good. Very good right now.
So, once again, folks, hey, sometimes I say things. Am I right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. I was wrong on that one.
Yeah, you thought Logan Martin, which you informed me right before the show, the last time there was a classic at Logan Martin.
Yeah.
Who won?
Robert Hamilton Jr. The legend of Bob.
Yeah.
A reference to the 20 feet deep that we did on Robert Hamilton.
Still available on the Bass Talk Live YouTube channel, which you need to like and subscribe to.
Yeah. Nice shameless plug
so
there.
Guntersville, second two times, I said 1976. I believe that would have been Rick Clunn's classic.
Yes.
And then 2014, which is the Randy Howell Spring Creek Bridge, which many people don't realize that win should be credited to a 6-pounder that he caught in the back of a creek on a bladed jig and not on the crankbait fish that got him there on the bridge.
Yeah, you're right. All right, good show today. We're going to have Marty Stone on, the Major League Fishing analyst, on all the live stuff, and then obviously does a bunch of the cup stuff too. So we're going to have him on live via Skype here in about 10, 15 minutes, get his take on so many things that are going on in the world and game of professional bass fishing.
Oh, there's a lot going on right now.
Yes,
I mean, considering we're coming off of Easter week with just the Open coming up this week, there's a lot to talk about.
All right. Interesting interview took place over on bassfan.com with the story that was published there. And I read through it, and there's a couple of interesting tidbits on there.
What
Matthew?
is I'll just read the title. MLF softens stance on anglers working 2020 Classic Expo, which is good because now we know that the 2020 Classic will be on March 6th through 8th in Birmingham.
Did Todd do this story?
No, John.
Johnny Johnson did?
John. It just says John. I don't know if he goes by Johnny.
Oh, okay.
John Johnson.
Not to be confused with the man from Arizona. John Johnson. Great guy. Does a tremendous job.
Yeah, so if you listen to the Boyd Duckett interview that you did last Thursday, I think there is no doubt that there was an email that went out now, as Bass Fan actually quoted the email that went out that had... me and you have both seen the email, Mark, but it wasn't. Now it's out in print.
Yeah.
So they had said that they would not be able to attend the Classic or Expo in 2020, MLF anglers, and now that stance has apparently been softened, which is good because like a quarter of the MLF anglers are like former Classic champs that live around Guntersville and Birmingham. So
yeah.
I mean, just a short drive. The expenses for those sponsors to get them there in 2020 is going to be quite low.
Well, there's a couple of interesting quotes in the story by John Johnson. And the first one is Boyd, and I quote, "The only way we can do this is with a complete focus on our own business model. Our strongest assets are our players, and there is no
No, you're right.
And there is no value to MLF for them to be at the Bassmaster Classic. That stats isn't anti-bass. There's a bad perception that's out there. That is a bad perception that's out there. Man, I just butchered this all up. Mm-hmm. It is positive toward MLF. Now, I mentioned on the show yesterday, I get it. From a business perspective, I understand what they're trying to do. But at the same time, I made the comment yesterday that how interesting is it to actually be able to spread your brand in the biggest event that your competitor has?
I mean, we have dozens and dozens of times had other people who have podcasts, radio shows, other entities that are, let's be honest, competing for the same sponsor dollars that we are, Mark.
Yeah.
But they come on the show and it's mutually beneficial for everyone involved.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
And there is just a slight chance that some of the people that are attending the Bassmaster Classic may not know what Major League Fishing is. Now you have that situation where you can begin to position your brand right in the middle of the biggest event that your competition has.
Do you think, I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it.
They don't want to be there. They just don't want to be there. And you remember what I said a couple of shows ago about separation?
Right.
That we finally
If you want to go see the
separation.
BPT guys, you got to be at a BPT event.
Yeah.
If you want to see the Bassmaster guys. But, I mean, Bass has made it clear. Fish whatever you want.
Yeah.
Go to whatever expo you want. Come back and fish our events. Go fish FLW events. Fish whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're an independent contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So are what they saying now is that MLF anglers, are they still independent contractors? Or now they under... You see what I'm saying there?
Dude, they're an independent contractor under contract with the organization. Does that make any sense?
Is it the same way with Elite Series anglers?
No.
You sure? But I mean, you sign a
so.
contract with the Elite Series that you won't slander the organization, that you won't say anything bad, that your image
I guess
and
you
your
could
rights
say
are...
technically, yes, that is a contract, but it's more of a terms of the agreement. It's more of an agreement.
We probably should have gotten into this off the air before we go down a bad path here, but I'm curious. I mean, so you think it's a more binding contract for the MLF guys and a looser contract for the Bass and FLW?
No, I just think it's a totally different worded agreement.
Okay. I have not seen an MLF agreement. Have you?
No.
I mean, I've seen it. I've held the Bass agreement and an FLW in my hands and read through it that the anglers get, but I have not seen an MLF one.
I think there are things that don't match up with both contracts. And in other words, there's language in the MLF contract that is not present in the Elite Series agreement. It's weird. I mean, I call the Bass thing an agreement and I call the MLF document a contract.
Are we making a mountain out of a molehill by talking about it? Because Duckett says later in the interview, he basically says this is a mountain out of a molehill. Because he says, quote, ultimately, it's not a big deal whether we do or don't work the Classic one more year. And
keep the level of heartburn.
And we'll do it if it keeps the level of heartburn down. I think he might have just, there might be a TUM sponsor coming down the road for MLF. He might have let the cat out of the bag.
I don't know.
He said, but this thing, Redcrest, is coming and it's going to dominate, period.
Do they go down the path of actually scheduling an event during the Classic now that they know what the date is?
I told Dave Rush, I said, screw it. Let's schedule an international kayak event for MLF where we get Paul, Elias, Duckett, and the rest of them in a kayak, have it on frickin' El Salto, partner up with one of those guys that they do their Mexican thing with, and not only have them not at the expo, don't have any of them in the country.
That will be interesting to see if that happens. Not your fiesta that you're
Now, we've been told multiple
of.
times that they will not schedule on top of the Bassmaster Classic, and next year they would not schedule on top of the Forrest Wood Cup. I've been told that personally.
Okay. We'll see. I mean, if somebody's told you that, we'll see. Anything's possible, Matthew.
It's good. Fun talking points.
I just think that would not be a molehill if that took place. You agree? That would be a mountain.
And the fact
I don't think they're going to go down that path.
We've also had a couple emails of people who be like, oh, they're trying to stick it to the guys there by having it on Gunnersville in their backyard. I think that was the city that paid. It makes sense. It's a historic fishery. Birmingham has been there. We're going to see massive weights. I don't think that had anything to do with it. Do you?
No, it's a good place to have it.
Yeah, it's a great lake. It's 68,000 acres. You could have big 25, 30-pound bags.
A little bit of a drive.
You think there's some of the guys fishing the BPT that right now they're like, oh, man. I mean, you got Jordan Lee, Matt Lee, you've got Aaron Martins, you've got Justin Lucas, Boyd Duckett. Okay.
They've moved on. I really believe that. And I think that's kind of the tone that Boyd sets in that story.
Okay.
They're trying to move on. They are trying to take care of their business.
Which is what you should do.
Have we not said that all along?
I'm just saying.
They're concerned about their competition from a perspective of, okay, well, yeah, they're doing this. But you know what? We're concerned about us. And that's where the priority is. They're concerned about what they need to do to be successful. Bottom line.
As soon as the dates come out for Red Crest 2020, you need to book that room because I want to be there.
Why is that?
Because they're already talking about it. They haven't had Red Crest 2019.
Yeah.
We're 2 years of building up to this.
Maynard on the instant feedback brings up a great point. What if Bass schedules on top of the Red Crest? What impact will that have? Schedule wars, man. Do you think they would do that? I don't think they would.
I don't think this room is going to happen with FLW, BASS, and you moderating it. If it is, that's 100% has to be live streamed. That'll break the
I don't
internet.
think we could. No, there's no way. If that came to fruition, there's no way that would be live streamed. Not a chance. I think there's about a 99% chance
that it never happens.
But on the record, Boyd said that he would be willing to do that. They would be willing to do that. Now, I have not reached out to Bass, and I've not reached out to FLW yet. My plan is to do that, either to get a statement from them. Are you willing to do this? And if they say at this time, no, we're not interested. I tried. I made the call.
Can we move on?
I tried to do it.
Because I have something else that's interesting.
All right. What do you got?
So I was on the Bassmaster website reading the 2020 articles about how Keith Combs loves jigs.
Okay.
And I got a text from Charlie Hartley. Said he was listening to the show while he practiced for the Smith Lake Open.
Had the headset on.
I don't know if he had the headset on or how he had it. I'm sure he's got surround sound in that Ranger. He treats that thing like his
Might be a little obnoxious, but I'm sure he had the headphones on.
So I wanted to just see who was fishing in it again, because that's okay.
How many anglers? Do you remember?
Oh, that part escaped me.
Okay.
But there are.
You're just looking for names, huh?
I'm just looking for names.
Okay.
I think John Cox is fishing it. I'm keeping an eye on that Chad Smith kid that Brad Hallman was really high on, who had a great start in the Easterns there. Yeah. And I was like, oh, there's someone under the list for Idaho.
Not too many people from Idaho there, Matthew.
There's two.
One of them being
someone who is well known.
Yeah.
Brandon Polinick is on the list of competitors, which seems to bring up an issue.
Hang on.
Because the Bass Pro Tour is the week after.
I'm gonna inform everybody right now. I have spoken via text with Brandon. He is not fishing.
So he's just eating the entry fee.
Yeah, I guess so. Now, obviously, there was some intent, maybe. Well, not maybe. There was intent to possibly fish it, but he has made the decision.
You think he just signed up for all of them, paid in full, and then realized, oh, crap, the BPT's the week after? Or was it one of those deals where they had the dates? The Opens came out. He said, yeah, I'm going to fish the Opens. Didn't realize they weren't on top of each other, and all of a sudden he was screwed because they put Smith Lake the
I don't think all of a sudden he was like, oh, I'm going to fish the Smith Lake Open. You know, it was probably before that scheduling situation came out that he was planning on doing that. So based upon that, he did tell me he's contacted
But you
Bass
did talk to him?
Yeah.
So he's not fishing.
He's not fishing. So all those people out there that might think
really
that's a story.
To talk about today.
No.
I was one of those people.
There is no story there, folks. No story whatsoever. He is not fishing the Open.
I actually, I more listened to on the way here, his the last North Carolina one that just came out, his kind of documentary of the season. So really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Is that the one that he caught him
he
pretty
was
good?
Way behind, and then he came back, and it looked like he was throwing like an old school Huddleston, like an ROF 5, like the 6-inch, and caught him really good on that, and ended up finishing 20-something.
All right. You ready to take a break? Come back with Marty? See what he has to say?
What else?
Do you have anything else on your list?
No, I think that covered it.
All right. And then don't forget, tomorrow, it's all about the listeners. It's all about the viewers. The Sunline Hotline show tomorrow. Last time we took 15 calls.
And we were 15 for 15. You didn't have to kick anybody off.
I did not.
The odds of that happening again, I think are slim.
No, I think it's pretty good, man. The viewers,
can we bring in
listeners.
One of your high school students who's got a little bit of...
No, they're in class.
To screen them?
They're in class. They're busy.
Could be it.
They're being educated. All right? Sorry, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Did you part
I
your
think
hair to
good.
the other side today?
No.
You always part it to that side?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I could have swore you parted it to the left.
No. Not at all. All right. All right, everybody. We're going to come back with Marty Stone live via Skype. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
I got my power pole down, stuck in the mud in the bottom of the lake, sitting so still in the wind and the waves, could even be a hurricane. I got my power pole down.
AFCO has a new foul weather rain suit called the Hydronaut. A lot of the features that I really like about it first is the speed vent hood. If it's raining out, you know how a person gets wet is when you run down the lake and the hood comes down. With the speed vent hood, it's going to stay up. It has a camera mount in the pocket on the chest. The Hydronaut has a 2-layer, 100% waterproof nylon shell. If you're interested in a rain suit that has a lot of cool features that's going to keep you dry, you need to check out the Hydronaut from AFCO.
Aaron Martins here. I'm going to be telling you about a new product by Sunline. It's Siglon PE x8. I've been using it almost extensively all year for my frogging, flipping, drop shotting, shaky heading, worming, jerk baiting. It's by far my favorite Sunline braid. I honestly, I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly it's the best braid in the market of any of the braids. Definitely check it out. a price point line, $14.95 for 165 yards, and that could last you a whole year, just one spool with using leader material. It's Siglon PE times 8. It's my favorite braid, and I think if you use it, it'll be your favorite braid too.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4-strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
All right, we are back on a Tuesday, right dab in the middle of spring.
I totally forgot to mention something that was like number 1A on the list yesterday, Mark.
All right, what is it?
You know, just got back from the Bass Regional at Gunnersville.
Right.
Jared Miller. Crazy stuff happens to him. You know, he fished the Elite Series. He's one of those dudes who's like, oh, something broke, and you don't even know it could break on the boat. And he's like, I got 6 spares, and I've replaced 4 of them. One of those dudes.
He caught 18 pounds on day 2.
Yeah, well, he would have had more, but he caught a tagged fish, like way up lake, I guess. And it was a pink tag, and he didn't know anything about it. So he brought it in and weighed it in, and come to find out they have this like bass, bash, bucks, cash thing or whatever. And if he'd have paid $100, he'd have won a damn truck.
Really?
Yeah. He didn't get anything out of it. He got like a 2-pounder out of it. And if he'd have paid it, it was like going on right then.
Had no idea about
Had
it,
no
though.
idea. And someone he was like, yeah, I caught this fish with a tag. And someone at the weigh-in was like, you gotta be kidding me. And they like looked it up. It was like a freaking truck.
Brand new truck.
Brand new
$40,000.
I think it was like a Ram or something like that. If he had entered, but he didn't enter. So I don't know what the heck
he
happened
probably
if
just
they put
shook
it
it off,
back
though.
or if they...
Did he not just shake it off?
That's
It's
just,
like
stuff like that happens to him every week. But I thought that was...
That's pretty
That
funny.
was wild. You got $8,000 for winning, and he caught a $40,000 fish, but didn't pay the $100 entry fee.
Did he know about it?
No, had no
well,
clue.
then-
He said he's fished Gunnersville twice now. He's caught 2 tagged fish. Hasn't gotten a cent for either of them.
2 of them?
Yeah.
Wow.
In the Elite Series, he caught him a couple years ago, and then in this past weekend.
Wow. All right, it is time to go to our special guest. And this guy has been in the business, Matthew.
He's
for
caught a few
just
tagged fish in
a
his day, I'm sure.
number of years. And we're going to get into the very early stages of the embroidery and the first initial teams. And we're
What
going
year?
to discuss what his role is currently this year in 2019, 4 events into the season, as an analyst for all the live stuff, and get into some of the things that have taken place so far during the season, get his take on a number of items taking place in Major League Fishing. But hopefully we will discuss how he even got his first gig into doing this, as he smiles. All right, let's bring him in. Marty, you there?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me this morning?
Yeah, we're good, man. All right, I want to jump in. I want to get this out of the way. Please tell everybody what your very first analyst gig was in the bass fishing world.
There was some goofy guy in Oklahoma that really didn't know how to cover a North Carolina event, and we were having a major at High Rock, and they took the top 50 anglers, and that year I was 51st. So he needed a boat driver and someone that was decent in front of the camera. There was a guy named Mark Jeffrey said, hey, would you do some on-the-water stuff for us at High Rock? And I'm like, you know what? That just shows how far my career was going downhill at the time. But I accepted and had a great time with it.
I'm curious,
so
Marty.
I will give you the claim to fame.
Thank you.
Wait, I'm curious. We got to stop here. Just because we talk. What did he pay you to do that?
Oh, are you kidding me? He didn't even pay my boat gas.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one.
Hey, man, times were tough back
Okay,
then.
that makes me feel a little bit
Times
better,
were
Marty.
tough. Hey, it was a blast. That's the event that Freddie won, Fred Robanus, and it was pretty vintage because I remember the lake that they fished on the final day. What lake is that?
That was like Townsend in Greensboro, North Carolina.
They closed the lake down. One of the few times they did that, and the only competitors on the lake were the guys that were fishing on that final day.
Yep, that's 100% true. They all qualified out of High Rock, which they blasted them. And then they took them to Townsend that had 10 fish, and they caught 9 of them.
All right, we got that out of the way. Marty, a whirlwind career for you. You've been in the private sector. You've fished. You've had some tremendous success from an angling standpoint. You've dipped your toes in just about everything there is in the professional game. But now a new adventure, even though you have been involved with Major League Fishing for a number of years now, with this BPT and the role that you have with the tour these days, what are your initial thoughts, and how can you really sum up what you've done in 4 events?
I think my initial thoughts is I'm still overwhelmed every day that I get to be a part of it. When we did our last Cup event in October in North Carolina, I thought there was a possibility we're going to launch, and I knew at that time it was going to get bigger than me, and I was okay with that. I was okay with sitting on the sidelines and letting these guys go. And they kept circling around, coming back. I guess they couldn't find anybody cheaper. They definitely could have found somebody better. But I relished the role, and then when I decided to take this leap of faith, and that's what it was one of these once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. What we've done in 7 months, and I remind people all the time, 7 months ago we were a notepad. That's all we were. To accomplish what we've done in 7 months just shows you what great people we've got at Major League Fishing. And there's some visionaries there. There's some folks that tell me if we're going to have a tournament on the moon, I'm packing my bags because I'm believing them.
All right. I'm curious, is your role as an analyst, sometimes I think that the most difficult part of your job is when there's not a whole lot of action. In other words, you have to constantly engage the viewer and the listener with what's going on when you might have dead time in there for the amount of hours that you're on. How difficult is that? And what do you think maybe might be a solution for that dead time?
We've got JT Kinney. That's instant comedy. And he's great at it. Now, between the 3 people there, and when you put 40 great anglers on the water, there's very little dead time with the way we're covering this. But when we do have those rare opportunities, it allows us to break down even more in depth what the leaders are doing or people around the elimination lines are doing. So it gives us an opportunity to inject some of the knowledge that we've got throughout the sport and possibly give fans a deeper dive into current situations. But right now, because of the group of anglers that we put on the water, there is very little dead time.
All right, Matt, one more question, and then I'm going to let you have it. Do you think in the early stages, Marty, that there was too much talk from your crew and not enough action on the water? In other words, some of the impressions and some of the feedback that I received from a lot of people that watched it was, tell those guys to tone it down a little bit, and what they're saying is great, but we're more interested in what's taking place on the water. What's your thoughts on that?
Mark, have you ever bird hunted?
No.
Mark's not allowed to have weapons.
That's not true.
So I'll give you this analogy. Anybody that's ever bird hunted, they'll recognize a bird dog when he comes out of the box. Dude, he'll point on everything and pee on everything. He's wide open and nonstop.
All right.
When we first come out of the box, we had never done this, and we absolutely talked too much. And what we've had to do now is find the rhythm. We've had to let the sounds of the game happen. You got to listen to the birds chirp. You got to listen to the reels squeal as they cast a line. You got to hear the braid come through the rods. We've got to embrace the sounds of the game, and we're learning how to do that more and more. As a fan, that's what I want to see. I don't want to hear. I tell the guys all the time, our anglers, the more you guys say, the more fish you catch, the less I have to talk, and the better show's going to be. They don't pay me by the word. They pay me for my knowledge of the sport. And it's just to be able to interject. And I've always said one of the reasons I did this is I want to truly be able to show the world how great these anglers are. And more times than not, you can show that by just letting them go.
All right. I agree. I think you guys have done a much, much better job. And that's a good analogy. It really is, even though I'm not a bird hunter, but I get it. And I totally understand when you're first there. Improvements have been made, and I think you guys have improved every event.
I wish you could have seen our dry run through at Kissimmee. We'd never been together as a group, and we did a dry run through on that. I think it was a Sunday night. No, it was a Monday night. we were horrendous at best. We were all. I'm like, we're 3 years away from getting ready to do this, and then when they said 3, 2, 1, we were just hoping the cameras come on, and they did, and everything worked. And then we didn't really know the rhythm because we hadn't done it before. So everything we have done has been on the fly, and we're learning as we go. And we know we got a lot to improve upon.
All right, Matt.
I got two directions I want to go here. First, we'll talk about that, and then we'll go the other direction that I wanted to go to. But it seems like from the very start, and I've said this on the show before, I mean, dude, the Chad McKee hire was spot on. I mean, that guy, you come in and we're all sitting here beforehand. Well, what does this guy know about fish? I mean, we knew he'd be good because he did OU.
Right.
He did Oklahoma.
Yeah, but he went to Oklahoma State.
He went to Oklahoma State, but he called OU, so we knew he'd be classy. We knew he'd be well spoken. We knew he'd be intelligent because that Sooner connection there, Mark. But I mean, dude, from right out of the gate, what was his knowledge? Like, did you guys and JT have to talk him up on what he knew fishing wise, but I mean, he seemed to just like step in and flow with it.
Matt, he come in there. We had a meeting, and Randy White had been wanting to hire him. He's our producer for 3 or 4 years, maybe even longer. And because he knew the knowledge of sports and just his take on TV. And when I watched him work after that first event, I'm like, would you just please make a mistake this week? I mean, he'll go through a whole week and it's just perfect. His ins and outs. He had very little knowledge of fishing, and he's already taught me how to take notes. The guy's incredible. Once he really learns our sport, then JT and myself will probably be fired, and Natalie and Chad will end up running the whole thing because that guy is insanely good. One of my biggest fears is an ESPN or ABC or NBC is going to come in and gobble that guy up. I've never worked around TV where I've been around someone that great.
All right, let's go the other direction. And I may be wrong on this, but this literally just occurred to me during the show. So you have between, and I'm just going to go based on your experience here. You have 237 tournaments between BASS and FLW. You have 4 cups. You have 4 classics. We obviously know what you've done on the Elite Series, what you've done on the FLW Tour. You were originally going to fish MLF when the cups first came out there on Amistad, and then turned to be an analyst, which you've done for the duration of MLF and now the Bass Pro Tour. Have you ever competed in an MLF style event though? Do you actually know what it's like
they
to?
Won't let me. I begged for about a year and a half, and then, man, I got past that. I really did. One is they haven't let me for my own good because I would get embarrassed. I'm bad at best anymore. And 2 is I really relish the role, and I'm going to go back to this, and I've seen it in the cups. When I get on the water with these guys, and I've probably spent more time on the water with these anglers than anybody in the world has, I see things that's truly phenomenal. It's great. And my challenge now, my biggest thing is I want the world to be able to see what I've seen up close and personal. When I watch Kevin Van Dam 30 foot away throw a square bill, or I watch Andy Montgomery skip a dock, or I watch a Brent Ayler do a flip shot or a power shot, when I get to see those things, Ish Monroe go off in a power bait situation, when I see that now up close and person, my excitement in the sport is, how can I relay the greatness to the casual fan? So I've never been allowed to fish, and that's been for my own protection, nor am I good enough to fish with these guys anymore. I had an average career at best.
Oh, yeah, just so average. 4 classics, 4 cups.
That's not average.
When you look at the guys that we have fishing, my career compared to theirs is very average.
All right, as an analyst, Marty, I want to know, how come some of the bigger name guys are really struggling 4 events into the season?
Yeah, Mark, it's a great question, and I'll answer that 2-part. 1, it's 4 events. Everybody can go through a 4-event struggle. 2, that shows you how good this field is from top to bottom. You can show up, and you better not assume anything. I saw some of our guys, not all, but some, do what they normally do at the end of a year. They put up their rods, they hunt all season, they show up at the first event, they practice 3 days, they're ready to rock and roll. And they come in and they weren't prepared for what was getting ready to happen. And then I had some of my young lines, some of the young hammers that I call them, man, they've been fishing for 2.5, 3 months, and they have been fishing under a mock MLF format style. And they come in hungry, they come in sharp. In the first 7 or 8 bites in Florida, they didn't miss, they didn't lose. This group is good. They are really good. So I would say two things. It's 4 events, and guys will turn it around. Good anglers will always become who they are on the back of the scorecard, very similar to baseball players. And the competition's this good right now. There's never been a group assembled like this.
Do you think, or how do you think the change in the format, and I know a lot of these guys have fished cup events and everything like that, but do you think the way the game is played now has had an input or an impact on the guys that are not really performing 4 events into the season?
I think, if anything, they're overthinking. I'll give you an example. Me and Swindle had a conversation, and he's been all around the elimination line. He's made a knockout round. He's been just outside looking in. And what, as elite anglers would do, they're always looking for that needle in the haystack. They're looking for that unpressured water. They're looking for something their competitors hadn't found. Now we're only putting 40 boats on the water at one time. The most obvious spots hold fish. And here's what I relate to. You have to fish this format like a Wednesday night jackpotter. Go to the best places on the lake because they're the best places for a reason. They replenish with fish. Don't look for that out-of-the-way place where you're going to catch 4 or 5 fish and they won't replenish. Have that in your hip pocket. Have that for the third period. But some of these guys have overanalyzed. They've overthought it. They have went searching for things that aren't good enough to sustain in this format. And I think they're realizing that because some of them have self-admitted. They go back and they look at the footage and they go, wow, Edwin Evers caught him on a stump flat. Edwin Evers caught him in the back of a creek. Jordan Lee caught him in the back of a creek on a vibrating jig, a.k.a. Thunder Cricket or Pure Poison or whatever. It's not like the guys that are winning are reinventing the wheel and they're finding something offbeat. They're fishing some of the most obvious, best places on the lake. So our guys are having to retrain how they practice and look at water because now the pressure's off the water.
Yeah, I'm looking at the standings, and that's a great point. I mean, guys who are noted for, holy cow, how did he find that pattern, or guys who find that needle. Right. I mean, you're looking like at the James Elams and the Justin Lucas, and Van Dam doesn't count. He'll figure it out.
Kevin is one of my anglers that he can make he can miss 3 out of 4 knockout rounds, and then he can win the next 4.
Yeah,
games.
remember when he was? Remember when he was done 2 years ago? Remember when he was done 2 years ago and was never going to weigh in a limit?
He won like 2 cups in a row or something like that. If Kevin's got a rod in his hand, he's got a chance to win. And can't many people say that.
Are you I obviously looked at your profile. I mean, you fished about a dozen BFLs all the way over the past 5 years, but you didn't fish any last year. Are you done fishing tournaments then, obviously, since MLF won't let you?
Saturday, I fished an ABA. And you know what? The last 5 or 6 tournaments I fished, I've always been in the top 30 because there's never more than 30 contestants in it. I love going to fish those one-day ABAs. I finished 5th the other weekend at Bugs. And I'll tell you what the fun thing is. I get to hang out with the guys. It's funny because I'll be at the ramp, and after we're weighing in, they look around and they're like, that's Marty Stone, Major League Fishing. And then I get to hang out and hear what our fans talk about. And that is so cool to me. Matt, I love to fish. I don't get to go anymore. I still love to compete in those little one-day tournaments. But I love sleeping in my own bed. I love not having sponsor obligations. I love being able to watch my kids grow up. But I do love getting on the water and competing. But I just like doing the local and regional stuff.
This kind of comes full circle because your first event you ever fished with bass was on Bugs.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Wow. All right.
And you did do a deep dive in there. Then you realized it was average at best.
Well, let's see here. 122nd. But you did have a top 30 in the next one in 1995. So nice rebound.
The very first event I ever fished in the Invitational, my second day partner was Van Dam. I made him flip for the boat and he lost. And later that evening, I found out he was in running for Angler of the Year, and I let him have his boat. And that was one of the greatest days I'd ever spent on the water. I realized right then I wasn't that far away, but I also realized I had a long way to go.
Wow. All right, Matt, when I was setting this up with Marty, we got into a little bit of conversation about something that I never thought of before until Marty said it. And I want you to talk about it, Marty. I got into a conversation with Marty about the term every fish counts. And the premise that I brought up was, Marty, every fish does not count because at the end of the round, you guys start over. And Marty, you said something to me that I never really thought of before. He told me to think of it as a game, all right? And each round is a game, and that game is over, and we're moving on. And the premise that I had was, okay, well, Kelly Jordan had 80 pounds, but then he ended up finishing, I don't know what place. And he's like, you have to think of it as a challenge on every single day.
So, like, each day is a game of checkers, and once that game of checkers is over,
they're moving on. If you're successful, you're moving on. So,
and it doesn't matter how bad you beat your opponent if you've got one checker left and he's
every fish counts that day. So talk a little bit about that, Marty, because that was a new outlook that I never really looked at before until you mentioned it.
Mark, what we've done is we've really changed a lot of the way people think about and view the sport, and it's starting to catch on. I remember in a cup event, I'm fishing along next to one of our anglers, and a guy, a non-participant, a local, catches a fish. He's like, score tracker update. So our terminology's catching on. But to what you're talking about is when we look at shotgun and elimination round, that game has halves. It has first half, second half. And then as you're playing the game, every fish does count, and it's building momentum for the next round. And you're learning something all throughout that particular game. And then when that game's over with, we're going to take the top 40 and go to the knockout round. And then on that particular game day, at the end of the game day, we're going to take the top 10 and go to the championship round. And some of the things you'll watch is when we're on the same body of water, you'll see guys in the elimination round back off some fish. That's strategy. And I've seen guys take advantage of that. Edwin Evers and Wheeler at Falls of the Noose. They backed off some fish and found new fish on Falls, and then they blew it up in the knockout round. So there's always strategy. And something else to remember, too, with our format is in years past when we fished in a tournament, you lose 1.5 pounds in the first 2 minutes of the event. That wasn't a big deal. Now you lose that rascal. It is a huge deal at the end of the day. Our guys have got to stay more focused and sharper than ever. And now we're evolving into not only the fish catching and how to do it and how to manage fish and when to let the air out and when to back off. There's so many different aspects that come into the strategy of fishing now that these anglers are realizing and they're taking advantage of, and they're teaching the world how to do it.
All right, Marty, having said that, the drama has been really centered around 15th place to 25th place during each of these rounds, with the exception of the final day. The guy that goes out and absolutely kicks butt in these rounds, he gets $500? Ooh, wow. I know money's money, but still. Do you think that there needs to be some type of a better incentive for these guys to really perform at the highest level they can, maybe by the early rounds, giving the guy that wins that early round an automatic place on the final day? It just seems like the guy that's out there doing what he's paid to do, which is go out there and perform, is kind of getting lost because the drama is between 15 and 25.
Actually, the drama becomes in championship round when the guy wins the event. But to your point, and it's a very good point. As we evolved, again, 7 months ago, we were a notepad. That notepad that's in front of you right now, that's what we were. We were a notepad. And as the anglers, when we originally did this and there was going to be entry fees, there was substantial day money involved in the payout. So when they pulled the entry fees out, we had to readjust the payout, and day money was one of the things that they voted on to take out now. Again, we're 7 months into it. I'm sure at some point in time, the day money is going to increase. We've always looked at how can we enhance it. So have a guy at an elimination round go all the way to the championship, that's a good point. That's something worth having conversation. I wouldn't disagree with. But the point I would make in that is now we're going to take a guy and put him straight into the championship where he could have had significant amount of airtime in the knockout round. Because remember, in the knockout rounds, we put cameras on the top 5 anglers in each elimination round to start the day. So now we're going to take a guy in the elimination round, we're going to advance him to the championship. He'll get a camera all day with him, but he's also going to lose that airtime. What about a guy like let's just use, for example, let's say Jacob Wheeler, or Alton Jones, who won the elimination round in Raleigh. And then he went on and had a great knockout round as well. And then he went to the championship. If we advance him, he's lost that airtime, never to get it back. And airtime for these guys to be able to teach, to be able to promote, to be able to show sponsored product, that's a big deal. Your point is a very valid one, but then we have to look at the balance of if we do that, then what are we losing out? And we're also taking a really good angler off the water. Again, our game is played in halves for the first 2 rounds. We always want these anglers to fish 2 rounds. So you have a first half, second half. And then I want my greatest anglers on the water for the knockout round. That's the top 40. That's the best. It is their job to figure out when to back off. Now, to your point on the elimination round, I'll disagree with you at Chickamauga. They had to catch them. Even the guys at the top, they had to flat out catch them. Now, Zach Burge probably took it a step too far and burned up some fish to break a record, but guess what? He broke a record, and his name's in the record book for a while. Andy Morgan got to back off the 3rd period, but there was very few at Chickamauga in the elimination rounds that got to back off. They were catching at such a high rate. These guys were nervous with the last 10 minutes to go, and they were in the top 10. They didn't back off of nothing.
That's a valid point. And that would be an interesting question to ask some of the guys. Hey, what's more valuable to you, getting a shot at $100,000 or getting the exposure on the elimination round?
Sure, and that's conversations that we have internally all the time, and that's the beauty of what we're doing. This is angler-driven. These guys are making the decision. The league as a whole, our role is to implement their wishes and to enforce their rules. This thing's angler-driven, so there's nothing we're doing right now that's set in quote-unquote stone, but there's a lot of good things that we're doing, but we listen to their input. We really do, and it matters, and a suggestion like yours, that's a good one. We'll figure it out.
All right, Matt.
All right, I got one question. I was trying to think. I've had this question in my back pocket the entire MLF season. I'm trying to think, is it one you asked Boyd? Is it one you asked an angler? And I realized before the show, this is the perfect question to ask Marty Stone because you've been around for the beginning. All right, I've got my MLF app on.
Yep.
And when you pull it up, there's a red screen, and it says the purest form of it just went away now. The purest form of competitive fishing. Let me make sure that's what it says. The purest form of competitive bass fishing.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you, and this is a serious question. I would ask you this off air, on air. I want someone from what makes it purer than any other form?
Matt, it's a great question. I've always said this, and here's what's pure about our format. In the past, a 5-fish limit, it suppresses great and it hides bad. Okay, and I'll give you, for instance, what I'm saying. You and I are fishing against each other that day, and you go out and you catch 100 3-pounders and you catch a 5-pounder. At the end of the day, you're going to weigh in 17 pounds. Okay, the last 15 minutes a day, I catch 5 that weigh 13. I'm only 4 pounds behind you at the end of the day, but what the world didn't see was how great you truly were and how bad I was. This format showcases good and it exposes bad. If you're having a bad day, this format's going to show it. You can't hide bad. If you're having a great day, with us, with fishermen, it's funny. We always catch them in 5. You ask your buddies how many you catch, 25, 30, 40, 10, 15. No one ever goes out and catches 17 fish. Now we know how many fish you caught at the end of the day because they're scoreable bass to Mark's drinking game point. So the guy's got to take a shot of 40 Creek right now since he heard me say that. But now the purest form is we're showing how great these anglers are. And it's also showing if an angler's having a bad day, unfortunately, we're showing that.
Okay, I could go with that. Yeah. That's a great explanation. Jeffries did just go out and catch 13 the other day, though. So.
Most of our
that was 14.
Hey, 14. What did you catch? I caught 25. I mean, we always catch them in numbers of 5. No one catches
I agree.
numbers anymore.
You asked someone and they're like, yeah, I caught 19 fish, and you're like, I call BS on that. Who the hell counts to 19? What do you have, a crappie clicker next to you?
Pitch count in the boat.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me of when I was a kid. My dad used to take me ocean fishing for rock cod, and you'd have 5 hooks on the line, Marty, and you'd make a drop down into 150 feet, and you'd sit there and you go, okay, there's one, there's another one. Okay, there's
loaded
another.
Up on
when you get 5 bites, you crank that and winch that thing in, and then there's a dude there standing there with a clicker to help you count how many fish you catch.
Yep.
So
there you go. Matt, I'm also add this, and I'll add this real quick too, so I'm going to give you the bonus answer on this. This format also does the same thing for sponsors. We're getting to see what these anglers do for their sponsors, and these anglers are learning that our format's letting them go. The sponsors out there, if you and I are sponsor Angler X and we're watching him on this format, we're seeing how he performs under pressure. We're seeing how he promotes. We're seeing how he handles himself as a professional. These guys are truly able to separate themselves. And there's some guys that are really knocking it out of the park, and there's some guys realizing they've got to adjust because the value that they're showing their sponsors, they're going to be held accountable for with this footage. And most are going to be fine. I'd love to be able to renegotiate some of these contracts. But there's a few that's going to go, okay, I need to make adjustment. And I'm watching them make those adjustments as well.
All right, a couple of questions from the instant feedback. Then I want to get into a couple of other subjects real quick. Clay in Arkansas wants to know, what's the best story you can tell in a few minutes about rooming with Swindle?
Oh, my gosh. Man, I don't know if we can tell them on the air. The best one was that we can tell on the air is we were in Jackson, Mississippi, and we were both tired that night. We stopped at 2 o'clock in the morning. We got a room at Hotel 6, maybe the Econo Lot. No, it had to be Motel 6, so there was a mistake made. The guy gave us a key. Gerald, I put the key in the door. He has to open it, kick in, because we got our bags in our hand. And we go in there and we find a couple in a very compromising position. I've never seen Swindle outrun me in his life. And by God, that day he did, because we thought we had died. That guy come out of there. I know he was reaching for a pistol, but that's one of many.
Wow.
But life on the road with Swindle was never boring at all. And man, I wouldn't take nothing for those days.
I gotta give Marty credit. I mean, he might not be fishing, but he snuck a 40 Creek and an Econo Lodge mention into the last 3 sentences, like he's been fishing and repping his sponsors for the past 10 years.
Very nice. All right, Bobby in Arizona wants to know, how do the young guys get so good so fast?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm gonna tell you, it's many-fold. One, it's all the video and all the stuff that we've got out there online now, and they relish that technology. If they want to know how Kevin throws a square bill crankbait, go online and look. And then they spend so much time on the water. These guys, like a Josh Bertrand, that guy lives to fish. Alton Jones Jr., who's one of my favorite young ones, they live to fish. So they go online, they look at this technology, and then some of them are second-generation anglers. Some of them come out of the college program. Some of them come out of the high school programs. Just the information that's out there, and they're fearless. Jacob Wheeler absolutely is a fearless angler. So is a Dustin Connell. They're more polished than we ever were at their age. And he's spot on. I would just say it's all the different information's out there. They've embraced it. They've taken it in. And then they go out and they practice it relentlessly. You cannot replace time on the water. And when I'm on the water with these guys in the Cup events, I know who's been faking it, and I know who's been taking the time to go out there and do it.
All right, Matt in North Carolina wants to know, and this is going to lead into the next subject that I want to talk to you about, Marty. Do you have any of your old jerseys?
I've probably got 1 or 2 somewhere in the box, but most of them got thrown away and given away. Man, when I checked that box off and when I walked away, Mark, I did something that most people can't do. I got to walk away on my own accord, and I was at peace with it. I really was. I remember my last bass event in Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, and I remember my last FLW event at Lake Wheeler, Alabama, and I knew that I was done, and I was okay with that. So I haven't kept any of that. I got a few old trophies hanging around. They're bookends somewhere or another, but man, I've got a couple, but no, I couldn't find them if you told me to right now.
How good were the days 15, 20 years ago, the days of embroidery is what I call it, and not sublimation. You had Crown Royal, you had Citgo that you were a part of. How good were those days, and how do those days compare to today, Marty?
You know, the embroidering part stunk because they itched and they scratched and they were horrible on. The jerseys were uncomfortable. But having those type of sponsorships really taught me a lot about the business. I'll never forget being involved with Citgo for the first time. So why does a Citgo, and in our case, an Advanced Auto, a non-endemic come in the sport? Well, they come in for brand recognition. When Citgo first started their program, they were thought of fifth by bass fishermen overall as a place to stop and fuel up. At the end of that run, we then taken over the number one spot. So when you surveyed bass fishermen, where was your choice of retail purchase? Citgo become number one. With Advanced Auto, we took them from fifth all the way up to second. We were only percentage points behind AutoZone. So then it taught me why these non-endemics wanted to get in here. And it was pure and simple. Let's move the needle of brand recognition. So they might have loved the sport, they might have loved anglers, but they also had a professional marketing reason for doing this. So you had the endemic sponsors, the lures, the boats, the tackles, the things like that. It's important to make a difference in the marketplace. But when you bring in the non-endemic, that's a totally different world, and it's a totally different marketing concept. So I've been the beneficiary of some really good teachers in that.
All right, you're a finance guy.
Yes, sir.
Money-wise, and forget about, well, actually take into consideration inflation. Was the money better 15 years ago than it is right now for guys to get those big-name sponsors?
Yes, up until what we've done. And Mark, I'm going to take it a step further. We finally have a professional sport. Matt, when you looked up my resume and you look at other anglers' resumes, I made a living in a hobby. I'm a hobbyist. And the reason I say that is there's no other professional sport that paid the entry fees we paid to participate. That's called a hobby. Now that we've eliminated the entry fees, we truly have a professional sport. Also, too, when you start talking about non-endemics, I remember with Advanced Auto, we took a 75% pay cut one year. That was the year ESPN bought Monday Night Football, and they bought NASCAR, and we lost all our airtime. And when Advanced sat down with us, they said, guys, it's nothing personal. They showed me the numbers. They showed me the contract. It was all about impressions. It was all about billable minutes. It was all about the TV time. We'd lost that. Now we're going to have 850-plus hours of program. And if Jim Wilburn's watching and I got that number wrong, forgive me, someone sending the correct. We're going to have a lot of programming. So now we've got sponsors able to get that airtime. And for the non-endemics, that's huge. So now we're giving these guys a platform that they can go out and truly seek those big deals again and be able to have assets to be able to leverage that with. And also, too, they're winning money without having to pay in to be able to participate. So to your point, 15 years ago, absolutely the best. When I could win $100,000 and have a $1,500 entry fee versus when I left the elites and I had to pay $5,200 and win the same $100,000, there's no comparison. But now they're winning $100,000 with no entry fee. Yeah. Now we have a professional sport.
All right, I was referring, and I get it, Marty. You're absolutely right. I was referring to the contract itself with the sponsors. In other words, were these non-endemics throwing out more money 15 years ago than they're doing now from a sponsorship?
Yeah, they were, and it was because of the airtime we were getting on ESPN.
Okay, all right, which brings me to my next question. What's more important, digital or television?
Yeah, here we go from a digital guy. They're both important. They're both equally important, and I'll give you reasons why. So our Bass Pro Tour, we're doing them live digitally. We're in your world, in other worlds as well, and my sub-45 people, and even my mom at 72 is watching this stuff too. So we got people watching all across the board. But remember this, all our Bass Pro Tour events, we're also going to air them on the Discovery Channel. Discovery Channel's got 90,000 homes. Let's say we get lucky and have, let's just for simple math, let's use a 1% rating on that particular show. So now we've got 900,000 people watching that. Let's say we can convert 1% to anglers. Now we've made an impact to people who didn't even know about our sport. Same thing when we go to CBS. we want to be able to allow our fishing fans to go to regular network and find it, but we also are reaching a target audience that really don't know about us. So both are equally important, and I don't think we can be successful without each other.
Anything, Matt, or I'm going to keep going?
I got some deep stuff, but I don't want to get into it now.
Okay.
It has to do, I like the growing the sport. I'm just curious on your opinion here. Yeah, I do want to get into it.
Okay.
Is there a ceiling in bass fishing?
No.
Listen, here's what I have to say. Mark loves to use bowling. You can build as many bowling alleys as you want, and you can knock over 8 trillion pins, and they're going to set them back up, and they'll be the same damn pins that you just knocked over. There is a limited number of natural resources, a limited number of bass, a limited number of ramps, and a limited number of fishing areas. If this takes off the way that it is it going to get to the point where we look 5-10 years from now, everybody sees all this, wants to be a part of it, you get to the lake and you got nowhere to fish and your natural resources depleted because of the, quote, growing the sport? That concerns me sometimes.
Great question. And I tell you, I had my eyes open at Chickamauga this week. Their restocking program is one of the most incredible programs I've ever seen in the country. That lake is 32,000 acres. That's not a big lake. And I rode it from one end to the next. It has some great habitat, but it doesn't have a sustainable habitat to be able to take the pressure it takes and produce the fish it does. So what they're doing is they're restocking it with 200,000 Floridas a year. And then the key person to the economic development that brings us in, his eyes were open to the fact that we just caught over 7,000 pounds of bass. And he didn't have to go out after the tournament was over with and get one of them and put in his Yeti cooler. Not one. So at some point in time, the technology will catch up. People will have access to our catch, weigh, and release. And I understand other organizations, they don't have the manpower, they don't have the horsepower, they don't have the technology, and they've done a terrific job of taking care of the resources in our way of doing it. I fished a tournament last week that I caught, I measured, I put in a live well, I put in a bag, I weighed, and I released. And we all do a great job of trying to, but it's still not as good as our catch, weigh, and release. So I think we're just now starting to see the growth curve finally trend upward. High school, college, females. That's one of our fastest growing segments as well. And as we take this sport to the masses, our hope is the masses will now embrace it as well. So we've got to do a better job of taking care of our lakes. We've got to launch more programs that's like at Chickamauga throughout the country where the climate will allow these type of regressive restocking to make our fisheries better. We've got to take care of the resource, and we've got to reach more non-traditional fishing people if we want to truly grow it. So I don't think we're anywhere near capping out. I actually think we're at a point where we're just starting for the first time to possibly trend upward.
All right, David in Wisconsin. This is actually a 3-part question, but it's not going to take a long answer. All right, angler-owned, angler-ran, that is a very big premise with Major League Fishing. Do you and do the anglers have any input on where or what venues that the schedule will be constructed to in 2020 and beyond? And do you personally have any input on the lake selection or the site selection? And if you do, where would you like to see MLF go?
Wow. I don't know if I keep. Yes, I do. I do have input. I've got a title that's 10 feet long. Director of Event Research and Program Analyst. So actually, when we're picking lakes, Michael Malone, who's the lead person for us on that, he goes out and contacts communities. And once we find there's an interest, it has to pass a multitude of tests. Operationally, does it work for us? Production, do we have the connectivity? And then lastly, they come to me and they talk about the fishing. So if we go somewhere that's poor fishing, I'm going to own it unless I can prove that I said, hey, let's avoid this. So it's really a 4-stage process that we look at, and we're constantly asking our anglers. Like we just got through with the North Carolina event where we did Falls of the Noose, Jordan, and Sharon Harris. We reached out to all our anglers, and they're compiling a list to us now, the 80 anglers. They know where those lakes are locally. We can go to smaller venues. We can go to non-traditional lakes, and that's what we want to do. We can go to slot lakes. But we have a process. Michael Malone contacts the community. Can we get the billable or the action items that we need to be able to have an event there? Do we have the connectivity to be able to do live streaming? Does it make sense to take a Bass Pro Tour event or a Cup event operationally, can we get everybody in place there? And then myself on the fishing side, after the research that I do, which is tireless, because with this bunch, if I get it wrong, I'll have 80 type A plus personalities chewing me a new one. And I don't want no part of that. So yes, we do. The anglers will submit lists of suggestions, and then our job as the league is to go out and follow up with that.
Real quick, in your opinion, and I understand each fishery varies as far as fishable water and how guys spread out, but as a whole, generally speaking, what do you think the minimum acreage is on a fishery that can support 40 anglers at a time on it in an MLF format?
Man, we really tested it at the Falls of the News. We were at a 14,000 acre lake, and that's why we went ahead and had multitude of lakes lined up. We did Jordan, which was 12,000. Falls was 14. I might get it backwards, but both of them were fairly small. Sharon Harris was 6,000. I really think that if we're going to have an event from start to finish, we probably need to be around 25,000 acres minimum, and we better be careful the time of the year that we hit that. So it's some really good fishery. At some point in time, we're going to take them to a tough lake, and we're going to do it completely on purpose. They don't play the Masters on a course that you can score 30 under. And this group right now says, hey, the world wants to see us catch these big fish and lots of fish, and I don't disagree with that. But the world also, because I know it from the Cup events, they enjoy watching this group struggle, because then they can go, see, they struggle in this crummy lake, and we do too. So it's a double-edged sword, but I think personally 25 to 30,000 is probably the minimum for the tour. Now, when we start doing Cup events, that's a whole nother ball game. 2,000 to 4,000 acres is plenty big enough for me to have them on for a day and then do 10 anglers in a row. I've seen them spread out, and we have great events. My Cup events, I like to have them on smaller bodies of water. It's more of a controlled environment, and we're taking them out of their equipment, putting them in 19-foot Z19s. And so I don't want them on Lake Erie and that equipment there.
I think Marty just gave it up that the next year the tough one's going to be Pittsburgh one day on each of the three rivers.
Oh, my God. I'm still scarred from that classic.
Wow. Hey, several people want to know, Marty, is there a possibility, and you can put a percentage on it, that there will be a West Coast swing in the future?
Oh, I absolutely do. I would say a 95% possibility of that. There's too many great fisheries out there. Too many of our guys fish out there. Some of their smaller bodies of water are perfect for Cup events. It's just, again, is the town receptive to what we're doing? I do think that it's a perfect fit. I mean, I could think of several fisheries right off the bat that would make good events. We're not limited. We're coast to coast, border to border. It just doesn't check our boxes. You know, it starts with the sales side of this thing. Can we get the things that we need? Can it support our group when we come into town? And then again, production operationally, and then the fishing side. But the fishing side, it's absolutely good enough. And I do think in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll see some West Coast swings.
All right, TJ in North Carolina wants to know, why doesn't Bugs Island, Kerr, and Lake Gadsden get the exposure and the events that it did in the past?
Nancy Wilson at the Henderson Chamber of Commerce got it. She was very aggressive in marketing and bringing her in the bigger events. Nancy since retired from there, and that area just doesn't have a person in the chamber that values the lake, in my opinion, like it used to. We had an ash spill up at Bugs Island several years ago, and it's affecting the fisheries. And I've actually reached out to the chamber numerous times saying, hey, we need to do something about this. There's a group of us that are wanting to get together right now and help fund the stocking of the F1s like they've done at Smith Mountain Lake up in Virginia and like they've done at Chickahominy in the James River. We've got a group right now that just is not conscious about that lake as they were in the past. But Nancy Wilson was over the chamber, and she was a rock star bringing events up there. She got it.
All right. Maynard has asked this question multiple times, and I haven't been able to ask it. So I'm finally going to ask it now. Do you foresee any type of print media coming out for Major League Fishing?
I really don't, Mark. And now I'm saying that. You got to remember, I'm from the production side.
Right.
So digital and operations sitting somewhere in their office right now throwing rocks at my pictures for saying that. But we live in such an age now that print media, it's got a place. But I don't know if that's going to be a place that we go, because we do so much digitally and on TV as well. Our content is there. It's refreshed. Joel Shanglin, those guys over there on the website are doing a tremendous job. Why get a magazine that you're going to get 2 or 3 fresh articles a month when you can go to our website and get 2 or 3 fresh articles a day? I think we can provide more and better content and cover our anglers better digitally. So again, now remember, one of the Game and Fishes is our premier magazine. So we have a dedicated magazine to us. But do I see us coming out, and we sort of piggyback on them, do I see us come out? I'm probably not the right one to ask that question, but me personally, probably not.
Matt, anything else?
Yeah, what leather are we working with on the feet today?
Oh, the leather?
Yeah, we got boots. We got boots on right now. I mean, I know you already.
I'm chilling today. I'm with Nike tennis shoes.
I just thought you woke up and put boots on every day, Marty. I didn't know that you owned a pair of tennis shoes.
Absolutely, when I go to work. So I'm always digging the ostrich skin, and then we'll go plain leather, and every now and then we got to break out an alligator. I'm an absolute mammal person. Peter probably hates me on the boots.
All right, man. 2 more questions, and then we're going to let you go, Marty. Today, there was a statement put out by Story that John Johnson did on Bass Fan, of which Bass Fan is owned by your company, the parent company. And he addressed the situation on what took place with the email that was sent out to the sponsors. What are your thoughts on that? And do you see this as something that really isn't going to be an issue going forward?
John Johnson, Todd Sizer do an incredible job at Bass Fan, and we're always indebted to them. And I read that article, and Boyd did a nice job of sort of summing it up. And I think it's very similar to what we do time and time again. When we have issues that come up, there's dialogue, there's conversation. So there's going to be dialogue with the anglers, there's going to be dialogue with the sponsors. We're going to find out what fits everybody, and we're going to do the right thing, because we will change on the dime when we need to. I think in 3 to 4 years from now, after we've had a few Red Crest events, this will be a non-issue at all. We're going to do our thing, and others are going to do their thing, and wish them nothing but the success. And the only thing we can control is the energy and effort and attitude we bring to our workplace every day. So our goal needs to be take care of our anglers, take care of our sponsors, do the right thing, but let's go ahead and continue to build our brand. And part of that brand building is making sure the Red Crest is the biggest and best event we can have.
All right, last question from the instant feedback. Bobby in Arizona wants to know, do you see any future superstars out there that many people across the nation just don't know about?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, one, I've already labeled Jeff Sprague. I don't think the country knew him, and he's second in our points right now. And then these young guys, man, they're so, so good. Alton Jones Jr. is one of my favorite ones. People will be like, man, I'm starting his fan club. The kid's 26-year-old, and he's got the maturity of a 46-year-old. Every one of my young anglers are good. I mean, if they're our foundation, if you go look at what I call young, sub-31, Jacob Wheeler, the Justin Lucas, the Josh Bertrands, the Brandon Polnick, we've heard about them, but the Josh Bertrands, the world doesn't know about him. When you look at our young anglers and the foundation we've got, and they're our future. They're absolutely what Major League Fishing's about. We're in great shape. But the first one I would give to you would be Sprague. I would. He's performed at a very high level in 4 events. He's second in our points. And he's second only because Edwin Evers has went on. And if you go to MajorLeagueFishing.com's website, Joel Shingle did a great article today on Edwin. Edwin is doing one of those once-in-a-lifetime type runs right now. So it's taken that type of run for Edwin to be our points leader, and Sprague's right behind him. So we've got young superstars, and we've got some middle age, younger than me, but not considered young anglers that I think are coming into their own right now.
All right, man. My last question is not a fishing question, and I'm just curious because there is a big-time situation taking place here in Oklahoma City with the Oklahoma City Thunder and Russell Westbrook, and I'm just curious if you know about this. Do you know about the situation on how Westbrook is treating a local media member here in Oklahoma City that is part of the newspaper, of which it has gained national attention? The way that
I don't know anything about that.
Don't know anything about it. All right, just curious. Just curious because it
Man,
is a big deal.
724. Mark, I come from the finance world. I used to get up every day and live by the S&P and the Dow. But now I haven't looked at that in 2 months. I've got great financial advisors at the Stanfield McCarthy Group. That is where I used to work at. I don't pay attention to that. I'll pay attention to baseball because I'm a baseball junkie. The rest of sports, I'm a casual fan, but I live, breathe, and eat now fishing 724.
All right, no CNBC? Are you kidding me?
No. I've got financial advisors to handle that. The market's going to go up, it's going to go down, and no big deal. Just stay the course.
Is that S&P some new sonar technology that I'm not aware of yet? You see behind the boat as far as they can in front?
Matt, it's probably in your 401k plan that Mark has for you. And if you need any help in knowing how to invest in that, you let me know. And I'll
That's what he said. He said if I work my whole life for him, I'll make $401,000. That's a 401k plan right there.
No, he thinks 401k is a new topwater lure that's coming out. That's what he thinks that is, or a swim
See,
bait.
there's a labor department right now ready to call Jeffries. I'll help you out, Mark.
All right, man. Marty, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Grand when you guys make your way here. And it's been a while since I've seen you. We'll catch up more, but thank you so much for taking time out and giving us some insight on so many things that are going on from an MLF perspective.
Mark, we appreciate you and Matt and all the things that you guys do in covering our sport. If there's ever anything we can do for you, please let us know. You guys are our lifeblood, and we truly appreciate it. And as always, it's a pleasure catching up. Look forward to doing it again soon.
All right, man. See you soon, Marty. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
All right, there you have it, Marty Stone. And good stuff there, man.
Next question.
And for those people that are just haven't heard what's going on here in Oklahoma City, it is a big deal. Can you imagine at the Red Crest or the Bassmaster Classic or the FLW Cup when they have the press conference, if the dude sitting up there just goes, next question, refuses to answer? I can't imagine what would have happened if, say, give me an iconic name from a journalistic perspective in this game.
Ken Duke.
If Ken Duke asked a question and repeatedly, time after time after time,
Louis Stout
said next question just simply because that athlete, that angler had a situation and had a personal issue with one of the riders.
Louis Stout would take that cigar and shove it where the sun doesn't
I was
shine.
thinking, if Tim Tucker was still alive, that would be...
Even a Steve Wright or any of those guys.
Could you see that happening? No. The dude's making $40 million for crying out loud.
Have we ever...
Answer the man's questions.
Have we ever had anybody on the show, and I'm trying to think this, in 10 years of doing it, and you did the XM show with Gary Judici before this, have you ever had anybody that just said, screw you guys?
No. Next question. I'm not answering
now,
that.
I feel like over the past year, we flirted the line with okay, well, wonder how he's going to go with this one. Like, it could happen today.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree.
But everyone has been super nice.
Nobody has refused. I'm not coming on the show. And in all my years of doing it, the 15 plus years with the XM show and me and Judici and everything else, nobody has ever refused to come on here. Could I see that happening in the future? I
I'm not going to lie. During a tournament, I've asked Edwin open-ended questions that he answers with yes or no. But that's in the heat of the tournament that has to do with something that you didn't realize that he didn't want to give away. But after, as a whole, the bass fishermen are very kind to the media. But it's different because their lifeblood is sponsorship. Russell Westbrook, his lifeblood
He's got the fat contract.
It's not fishing. It's basketball. It's triple doubles. It's dunking. It's the three-pointers. It's driving the lane. He could care less what Barry Trammell thinks about him. It's a little different in the fishing. I mean, if that comes on here, the whole reason why they're able to go fish might go away. So, I mean, they're nice to us out of necessity, Mark. I'm sure there's been some guys who have wanted to just be like, hey, shove it.
Yeah. Will it happen someday? Who knows? Who knows? I mean, there's been times, I remember in the early stages of me being out there flying solo, where there were anglers that just kind of looked at me like, why the heck are you asking me that?
I got a great one.
Yeah.
Right before Rick Morris retired from the Elite Series for the first time before he came back, he was like leading, and I was like, hey, can I talk to you for a while? And he looked at me, he cocked his head, and he goes, who are you? Which is brilliant, because once I said, hey, I'm Matt with Basso, you know, I've been standing here for the past 8 years.
Yeah.
But what I was realize is, and we talk about this in the media, dude, we walk up to these guys, and every year you get rookies you have no idea, or they don't know who you are, or you interview guys from a tour that you don't know, and they just spill the beans and tell you everything. Hell, you could be a competitor in the tournament who just walks up, hey, man, can I talk to you about your day for a little bit? Now, how many fish did you go through?
Well,
you sit there and do an interview with them and not know who they are.
That would never happen because we don't wear jerseys. They would make the assumption that if you take a sublimated jersey with a microphone or a recorder or whatever and shove it in his face, he's probably not going to answer it.
Dude, you got to go teach, man. It's like 9:51.
Yeah, it's a long show.
Yeah.
A lot to talk about, though. All right, man. Final thoughts on today? Anything?
No, I mean, it was good stuff. It was good stuff. I'm
trying
looking
to
forward to Gunnersville in 2020.
I was so wrong. And I admitted it. Kicked the show off. I thought they were going to Logan Martin.
Hey.
Still going to be really, really, really good. All right, everybody. Tomorrow, it is your opportunity to voice your opinion. Give us your thoughts on anything in the world of bass fishing or anything else. I'm curious if anybody else has any thoughts on Russell Westbrook's nonsense with the local media. You know, Barry Trammell's a legend. Here. Been doing it 40 years.
Isn't that kind of his MO too? Like, he's not afraid to go after him. It's not his first spat with a professional angler, though, is it?
You mean a professional basketball player?
Yeah, God, I don't know why I keep trying to make Russell Westbrook a legendary fisherman. Paul George is over there going, yeah, I'm the guy who fishes.
No, he's very iconic here in the state of Oklahoma.
I didn't know that Deion Sanders is a big fisherman.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big time. All right, so tomorrow, the Sunline Hotline Show, we will open up the phone lines and love to hear from you guys as we continue closing out the week here. And then next week, already working on the show. Hopefully, I'll have some news on that tomorrow on who we're going to have on next week.
Guess where I'm going tonight? Game 6, Tulsa Oilers.
Oh, very nice.
Elimination game. You can go to like a Tulsa Oilers game, get 2 tickets, some snacks, $50.
$10.
$50.
That's a good trip there,
That's a deal.
especially during the week.
Yeah, you just don't want to sit in front of the ladies wearing a jersey with the cowbell.
Good point. All right, everybody. We will see you tomorrow, same time, 8:30 a.m. Central Time, right here. We are out of here.